Pravit moi druzy. Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm a conservative American who supports Ukraine. And I've spent some time with this talking about how, look, I know that you hear in the press, Trump says this nutty thing, or Marjorie Taylor Greene said that nutty thing, or whatever. And see, the Republicans, they just can't stand Ukraine. And it's not true. There's actually quite a few people who are in opposition to it, but there are the nutcases. And the nutcases, I'm going to show you the things that they are saying here. Usually I'm doing the reverse, saying, no, 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 there are responsible Republicans, conservatives, Reagan Republicans like myself that are opposed to this. But let's hear what the nutcases actually have to say. So here I'm going to show you Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then we'll listen to Tucker Carlson, little clips of that. And I want you to hear the Russian talking points in what's being said, and then you can just understand this for yourself. So here's Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. She is a hard Trump populist. Okay, not to be confused with a conservative that would be asking themselves, what would Ronald Reagan be doing right now? And when you ask that question, you get to a very different response than whatever question she's asking. So here we go.
That we're over there in Ukraine is ridiculous. We're propping up their government, paying for Zelensky's salary, the people's retirement over there, and their entire government, keeping the lights on. We're paying for a war, a proxy war with Russia, when I've never seen Putin actually show in any detail his plans to invade Europe. No one.
Okay, so he's talked about it. Talked about what his grievances are. Of course, he's not going to you and going, I'd like approval for this plan, please. I mean, I want to show you that. That's not the point. But we are paying a great deal. But the question that she needs to be asking herself is, what's the alternative? What if you don't do this? What if you, I don't like to pay the bills that I incur regularly, but it's a part of doing business. It's a part of, if I don't pay the electric bill, the lights go off. I don't like it, but it's just something that I have to deal with. Same thing here. The alternative, if we do nothing, is that Putin goes and does more, because this is what bullies do. They go on and if they're like Hitler said that if he was checked at the Sudetenland, he would have stopped. I mean, we don't want Putin to become another Hitler. We don't want World War III. So at any rate, I'll let her talk a little bit more.
Has shown me that. So I don't believe the lies that I'm being told about this.
But she believes very different lies. And this is the thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene believes that she is seeing truth. Now that's a scary thing, because you believe you're seeing truth. I believe I'm seeing truth. I think even Putin thinks that he's seeing truth. I mean, that might sound like a stretch, but let's assume nobody thinks that they are the bad guy. And that's really the interesting thing here. Okay, let's hear what else she has to say.
But we have a real war that has been declared on America, and they're killing over 300 people a day, and that's being waged by the Mexican cartels. Not the Mexican government, but the Mexican cartels that is basically running our border and obviously controlling our country.
Okay, now that is a really interesting thing. What she's doing is comparing this to the crisis at the southern border, where migrants are flooding in, and set aside whatever politically you might think about that. This is what I hear very often, is not not so much anti-Ukraine, pro-Russian sentiment, so much as, why are we doing that when we should be shoring up this? Okay, so I'm not defending Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I actually kind of despise Marjorie Taylor Greene for the way that she deals with Ukraine. And she's just kind of an abrasive personality to begin with. But generally speaking, what I've detected in what Republicans say, if they are in any way opposed to it, and I recognize that there's a group of Republicans that are opposed to Ukraine, and then there's a larger group, I think, in office at least, a larger group that is old school Republicans that are supporting it, recognizing that they have to deal with the international issues. By the way, I've been called a globalist. I'm not a globalist. I'm an old school Reagan Republican. I've been called part of the establishment. I have nothing to do with the establishment. I just think that we need to address this thing. It's an important thing. Okay, so let's now. I just talked about Green. Let's go on and let's talk about Tucker Carlson. Now, by the way, this is from an organization. I'm looking at the Twitter feed of Republican Accountability. This is a group of Republicans who are saying this stuff is wrong. So there are some of us out there, and I just want you to be aware of that and understand that it's not monolithically bad. Although Tucker's views on this are completely off base. They're out in left field, literally out in left field, compared to the core Republican base. So Tucker and Laura Ingraham have really embraced this. Why are we doing this stuff with Ukraine? Ukraine isn't, but Tucker is the furthest out there. Okay, so here we are with Tucker Carlson, and this was a really interesting video because it showed him saying essentially Russian talking points. Remember, I said they're not necessarily doing that, but Tucker is.
I haven't seen anybody do that.
The West started the war, and we used force in order to stop it.
If there was any single American who deserves scorn and, yes, blame for the invasion of Ukraine, it would be Joe Biden.
Okay, now there's two different things there. One, that is what the Russian propaganda was putting out, that the West started this and we have to stop it. That's what Putin was saying in the speeches leading up to the war itself. And I've heard that from a number of people early on. Like I would be on podcasts early on, and they would say like, well, the West started this. And that has kind of faded out as an argument, but you still hear it. But what Tucker just said fed his base, both conservatives and populists. Now, let me unpack what I'm saying. Conservatives, I'm a conservative. I'm a pro-Ukraine. But the way that Biden handled up to the war was actually kind of bad in the sense that, like, he didn't do enough to deter before the war got started. After the war, I give him pretty high marks for saying, you know what, this is it. We're going to support, we're all in, and trying to make sure things got done. But before it seemed a little lackluster, and even people like me were like, Biden. But he was appealing to Republicans on both sides. And anytime you can slap at the candidate of the other party, you generally are winning the hearts and minds of your own base. So that's part of what was going on here. Okay, let's keep going.
Ukrainian people have become hostages of their Western masters.
Ukraine is not a democracy. It's a client state of the Biden administration.
Okay, again, of the Biden administration. He's not even saying like the Russians are of the United States. So it's like the enemy of my enemy kind of thing, where if you can say that Biden supports this, well, naturally you ought to support that. It's a terrible way of trying to understand the way that the world works, but yeah, that's what's going on.
US were training on the future theater of military actions by owning biological laboratories in Ukraine.
Military biological programs are under development in Ukraine, financed by the U.S. Defense Ministry.
Okay, he said that with a straight face. I was on a podcast and these were all like conservative. Well, I shouldn't say conservative because it was more populist than conservative. These were all Republicans in this group on this particular podcast, and so I'm talking to them. This was fairly early on, about a month in. I'm singing Zelensky's praises, and they're thinking I'm nuts because I'm looking at him through leadership, and he's doing a great job. And I'm trying to explain how like I need ammunition, not a ride. That just totally overthrew the apple cart because Putin was thinking like I'm going to be in there in a matter of weeks. He'll have fled the country. I'll have a puppet government. And I was explaining all that, and they're like, well, they couldn't figure me out. Like, wait, you're a Republican. Because these populist type of conservatives, or Republicans rather, are the type that just, it's not processing. But they would ask me things like, well, what about the biolabs? Is he satanic? Is he gay? I mean, like, what? I mean, where? I would stress to them, I can't speak to anything I don't know about, and I can't find legitimate data that shows me that there were these biolabs. Well, yeah, but I heard it on, and it named Joe's blog, and then Tucker Carlson picked this thing up, and it would say, well, Tucker Carlson, is he a legitimate source? I can't prove what he calls his legitimate sources. I don't see it anywhere else except for him. So Yeah, there's that. And so that threw things into, and you can see a rift within the Republican Party between the populists and the conservatives, and it's growing larger as time goes on.
Western countries were setting military bases on our border.
The Russians don't want American missiles on their border. They don't want a hostile government next door.
NATO took
Okay.
specific actions, expansions to our borders.
Getting Ukraine to join NATO was the key to inciting war with Russia.
The elite
Okay, like that is just inflammatory in every way. And remember, Tucker is not straight news. Brett Baer does straight news at 6 o'clock on Fox News. Tucker is an analyst or someone who will give kind of a perspective of things. But this idea that NATO is encroaching on Russia's borders, I would like to reframe that. I think it's somewhat like this. Russia overran the Baltic states, Poland, Ukraine, all these other states, and then as soon as they had the opportunity to leave, they ran to NATO. It's like some abused girlfriend who, she's dating a biker guy. He's big and bad, and he's controlling her. And they go out to a bar, and when she's there, she sees the football team, and she goes, "You know what? This is my opportunity." Runs to the arm of the biggest, baddest football player and says, "Please protect me." And sure, yeah, you're with me now. Yeah, that's what's happened. It's not that NATO has encroached on Russia. It's that the Eastern Bloc states have fled Russia to NATO. So that's kind of a better perspective of what's going on.
states of the West are not hiding their goals. They are trying to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia.
The Biden administration wanted all along a regime change war against Russia.
Okay, so I don't know about all along, but as of the time post February 24th, yes, the strategic goal has been to degrade Russia. But I don't know about all along. And frankly, we weren't thinking about you that much before February 24th.
The initiators of the sanctions are punishing themselves.
So it's not Vladimir Putin who's getting punished, it's American citizens.
And that is picked up in RT again and again. Not just American citizens, Europeans, the UK, see how bad the economy is for Germany or for the UK or American heating and food prices and whatever else. They do this all the time, all day long. Just read RT and you'll see.
It's you.
The West provoked the growth of prices in their own countries.
More of the
Collapse
same.
of energy sector.
Gas prices are already the highest they have ever been in history. So the price of natural gas, and the price of electricity, and food, and everything else you buy. I think we should probably take the side of Russia if we have to choose between Russia and Ukraine. That is my view. We're on Putin's side!
Okay, so there's a couple things about that need to be pointed out. First, Tucker is actually spouting these Russian talking points. And if you go and look at RT and just go to RT.com and then Google Tucker Carlson, and you'll see hundreds of hits for him. That's all bad, right? But he's about the extremity of that. I also want to point out again that he's not the norm. Republicans are not monolithic. They're not all saying the same thing. And look at this. Republican accountability is trying to show the world that that's the case. We're not all like that. Okay, so I hope that helps you understand from the horse's mouth what some Republicans are actually saying. And really what's going to happen is that there's going to be a primary contest, and people keep asking me this, well, Donald Trump says this and they don't like him, and I understand that. Well, we hope DeSantis, and well, it sounds like DeSantis isn't, all in, and his comments were less than desirable too. So all hope is lost, but all hope isn't lost. 2 years out before a presidential election, go back to 2015 instead for the 2016 election, and you would have thought that the big money would have been on Jeb Bush. Well, Jeb Bush got lost in the contest, and Trump emerged in that process. And I think that it's very possible, very likely even, that another candidate will emerge over time. Okay, I hope that helps you understand how Republicans are thinking through things and how bad Republicans are saying stupid things and even repeating some Russian talking points. I think it's only fair that I highlight what's going on there, since I was just showing last week what was going on with true conservative Republicans who were saying, no, you don't understand. We need to do something about what's going on in Ukraine. All right, thank you for your time. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.